finding home improvement projects to whittle off. So that at least keeps you sane. And then it's just a matter of continuing on with the same training. It's a little bit like the off season. It's the same kind of thing. Take advantage of a bit of a break, but keep working. Alan, how about you? You've had some challenges here.
Yeah, I have. It's a little bit different for me in that I'm injured and coming back from injury, but the sports science guys have been great in terms of challenging me different ways in terms of my physical capabilities, and that's just kind of progressed. I've, like you, I've found skills that I never knew I had. I can paint. My garage can almost speak to me and tell me how fantastic it looks. If I could say that. But yeah, like you're right in terms of this is what we do kind of regularly enough, as opposed to the teams who are always together. The only difference for us is that we don't get to be in person at camps, which a lot of us look forward to. Even though the virtual camp a couple of weeks ago felt very, very realistic. But yeah, it's just about keeping yourself mentally taking over. I think what's been done the last couple of weeks in terms of the emails from Mark that have come out, keeping us mentally taking over, soccer tuned in, has been a real help.
But you guys got that challenge of the weather, right? I mean, I'm so lucky down here with the Florida sun, and we've had amazing weather during this thing. So I get to step outside. That's my sanity. I've gotten to go out on the water, do some paddleboarding. That kind of changes things up. That's my sanity. I had a field to use until it became a drive-through COVID testing center, although that's now gone away. So I'm actually heading out there to that very field after we get done here. But I mean, I think without having the opportunity to go outside as much as we do and train in our neighborhood, this place is like the Walking Dead of fitness people. There's so many, and that's motivating. I think the tough part for me is that not knowing when that next game is a bit of a challenge. I think in the preseason you look forward to and you work towards the fitness test, and then beyond that it's preseason to get to your first game. And now we've got this moving target of when we take the field again. So trying to get through some workouts, not knowing when that pays off is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, like you mentioned weather. I hate talking about weather, but yeah, you're right. Like Drew, where you are, and you can talk about your own weather. But a couple of days ago here, it was really good. I talk about going out and do some stuff in the garden and whatnot, but it was sunshine. It was 55 degrees. Drew, you can convert that. But 55 degrees, and then the following day we had 3 inches of snow, and then the next day we had 58 degrees and sunshine again. So it's a little bit crazy from that point of view. But look, you look for the positives. It's at least it's spring and not the middle of winter or the beginning of winter. So yeah, we make the best of it.
And I thought you only went to the Garden when Tottenham played.
It's a place to maintain your sanity when Tottenham play. Yeah. And a place to let out your frustration. We've touched on that many a time. So,
we have.
We've got a question here. I think maybe the ARs are the best to answer this. What types of topics are discussed on the communication headset?
Yeah, that is a good question. I can get us started, I think. So some of the communication that we're having on the communication sets is completely relevant to what's going on in the game in general, as well as like very specific situations. So it could be, a potential foul or a penalty area decision. It could also be communication where we need to put two pieces of the puzzle together. So potentially, an offside decision where the AR has offside position, but maybe doesn't have the other piece of the puzzle, like if a defender played it or who played it, things like that. So, I would say in general, the communication sets for us are very important because we're able to constantly, with open mic, be able to have an open dialogue and get the information we need to make the best decisions in the moment. Yeah.
What about you, Corey?
Yeah, I think the other thing is the technology's advanced where the communication headsets are more reliable even than our beeper flags now. So they really have become the main tool of communication. One of the follow-up questions was, does it benefit the ARs more than the referee? Does it help both? Yes. But I would say it definitely helps the referee more. It definitely helps assist the woman or the man in the middle. That person is the boss. And at the end of the day, all communication should be making our boss or the person in the middle have as smooth this game as possible and to help as much as possible. It's really about giving the value-added information that won't take away from focus of the game. You don't want to have bad communication to distract the referee. I remember Drew and I were on a game 2 years ago, and 75th minute in New England, and it's a tie game, and Drew's on a fast break down the field. And one of the other referees came on the headset and said, Drew, the corner flag fell over on that side of the field. And, that's probably not the time you want to communicate something like that, as Drew is on a dead sprint breakaway in the 75th minute. So it has to be good communication as well.
I want to know what Drew said back.
So I was pretty good. I held my calm until basically the ball went out of play. And then I think we got a goal kick. And then, we exchanged a few words about,
That's awesome.
Some of them may have been 4-letter, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Hey, not before the watershed.
But I do like that. I like how it's evolved, right? I mean, now we've gotten to the point where, the best of you guys, guys and gals that carry a flag, can give us information on pressure, and how much that is impacting on. You have a good look at the field to see what matchups are occurring that maybe we're not seeing in the run of play, or the best angle. I mean, Katie, last year when you had helped out with the red card, I think it was in New York City, right? You had the absolute best angle there and can communicate that immediately over the mics. And I mean, that to me is priceless.
I think as well. I think it's important. Look. Obviously, the decision-making aspect is really critical to it, but it depends a little bit on the game. You could have games where there's like a 6 or 8 minute period where there's not a whole lot going on. Maybe the concentration levels. I know we should be concentrated at all times, but it's just there's key moments where a referee can say to an assistant, or an assistant can say to a referee, or a fourth official can say to the crew, "Hey, just make sure that we're all tuned in here. There's a little bit of a lull in the game. Be prepared for whatever's going to happen." Just those little key words sometimes act as a little bit of a spur just to stay concentrated.
But there is a bit of a downfall for them a little bit too, because when the referee is super engaged and hyper focused, it may not be a time where the ARs are on super focused on their duties. They have a little bit of a lull in what they have to focus on. And I remember one of the few times, and I'm not a guy who would get angry. I was not a person who would yell at their assistant referees, but I know that one time that I did yell at my assistants was because of the comm sets. And you have Joe Fletcher on one side and Sean Hurd on the other. They're having a grand old chit chat, about whatever. I don't even know what they were talking about at the time, but it had nothing to do with the game. And here I am focused on this match. I'm in the middle of the field pretty much by myself, yelling at them to stop the chatter, stop the chit chat. And it's really, it is something that's difficult for the ARs too, because as Corey said, the referee really is the boss. The referee is the one that dictates how things are going to flow in a game and what the expectations are going to be from the entire crew, and the assistant referees are the ones that are going to have to adjust week after week in order to placate to the referee. Some guys like a lot of chatter, and then there are others where you hear crickets on the mic set. So that's something that's very difficult for the ARs to adjust to every week, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, Corey, but for me, that's like one of the fun parts about being an assistant referee is being able to kind of feel out the referees you work with and learn them and what works best for them and what works best for you as a team. I mean, I love that part of the job. So, I mean, it is difficult, but at the same time, I like that part of the challenge. So.
Yeah, it's where 5 years ago there wasn't a differentiating factor. Now it really is a differentiating factor, is the quality of our communication, because of the AR can, quote unquote, correct errant offside decisions, but the communication piece and how we bond with the referee in the middle is really one of the differentiating factors that's risen up on the list for an AR working in a crew now.
I think it's both like the differentiator for the quality of the ARs to some extent, but it's also it figures out it's a big piece of who works well together, right? And I think in the last few years, especially, it's become more and more apparent that almost all of us referees work better with people that we communicate well with, that we get along with, and that's off the field, on the field. All those things kind of go together, which kind of brings us into our next question here of how the assignments are done, and do crews work together regularly? Does it matter if there's big appointments coming up? Maybe Mark can speak to what pros thinking is.
Yeah, so one difference between the referee group and the teams is the teams know their 34 matches before the season even starts, whereas referees find out 18 to 24 days before a match that they've been assigned to a particular matchup, that they're going to be traveling to a certain city for a game, and they're going to learn at that point who their crew is. So that's something that is very different than the teams themselves. In the beginning of the season, we do ask each of the referees and the assistant referees who they'd rather work with, and we heard a lot about communication in that last question. And the bond and the chemistry that assistant referees and referees create with each other becomes very important on the field. Not only verbal, but nonverbal communication as well. So some of the assistant referees that I worked with over many, many games were able to tell what I was thinking or whether I was sure about a decision or not, just by looking at my body language. So it becomes very important for us to keep crews together as much as possible, but to be able to spread people around as well. There are certain assistant referees, Katie and Corey being two of them, that are requested by many, many referees just because of their quality on the field and their decisions and how easy they are to work with. But they can't work with the same referees week in and week out. They have to give everyone a chance to work with the more senior assistant referees. So the assignments, we 3 weeks before a game or a set of games, we assign the referees. We match up who we think the best person is for a particular game. And then from there, we match them up with the assistant referees that they're going to work with. Who do they want to work with? And again, looking to the game, who are going to be the best assistants for that particular matchup. And that's pretty much how it works. There's a panel that decides this. It's not done by one person. And then we also consider how much travel they've done, how many games have they done in a row now. We consider the matchup itself. Have they seen this team in the past few weeks? How many times in the season have they seen a particular team? So there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. And just to do 13 matches on a weekend, it could take us 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours to assign crews to the game.
And there is some build-in too for things like international work, right? Where if a crew is going to be going to a tournament, you'll look to get them some practice together before they go, that kind of thing as well.
And sure. So before the World Cup, you had Jair go into the World Cup with Corey. So we got them together as much as possible. We got Katie in with Carol Ann before they left for France and some NWSL games, just to, again, build that chemistry a little bit more. Ismail with Corey Parker and Kyle Atkins, before they went to the under-20s. Alan Kelly was their VAR over in Poland for the under-20s as well. So we got him some matches with them, just, again, to build up that chemistry so that they were going to be successful as possible, when they showed up in those international tournaments.
I think our next question is specifically for Corey. Corey needs to walk us through the technique behind the power squat.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief with this one, but I started that about 8, 9 years ago, and really the referees I started working with, it helps me with my concentration. I've had assessors say, "Hey, you can't see as much of the field if you squat down," which I think is kind of unfair to short referees to insinuate that they can't see as much of the field as a 5'9" person, but that's a whole different story. But yeah, it helped me get focused. It helped me explode better. And a referee said to me, hey, when I look over and I see you in that position, I know you're focused and 100% on the game. So it's just something I continued with. I actually dropped it for a tournament, a CONCACAF tournament. I said, you know what, the instructors want a certain look. They want all the ARs up front, and I was gonna, and I decided not to do it. And long story short, the game didn't go well. So I learned from that, and I said, you know what, when it comes to FIFA and World Cup and things like that, they're gonna have to take me. They're gonna have to take the power spot, whether they like it or not, because that's what helps me do a good game. And thankfully, they decided, both Pro and FIFA decided that it's an okay thing for me to do.
But just from you, Corey.
Yeah.
Hey, Corey, can you talk us through running through the corner flags?
I thought there have been a few bills I've gotten from a few of the teams, unfortunately, from breaking them. You know, some in cold weather stadiums, the plastic doesn't bend as well as some of the warmer weather stadiums. So apologies to Colorado, Toronto, and other northern locations.
Can you demonstrate the power squat now, or just make sure? I know you're sitting down, so maybe
Yeah.
I'm just hoping you're wearing pants.
For sure.
What do we have here? Who is the best referee outside of pro?
Is that soccer referee or is that any sport referee?
Well,
Yeah, good question.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, okay, give me your answer then, Ted. If we're going outside of soccer, I think I know your answer here.
Oh, there's only one answer to that, Drew. That answer is Wes McCauley.
Well, there you go.
And the funny thing is, like, I'm not a hockey guy. You've made me more of a hockey guy than I ever was. And when I grew up in the Northeast, maybe a little bit more there. And the Lightning are fantastic here. But man, that guy is good. And not only is he good, he the way he does it so naturally, right? We sometimes get heck in the laws of the game book. There's hey, you guys ARs need to stand there like this, and we point like this, and so on and so forth. And I think just naturally, we're all human beings, and our personalities come into what we do. I think his comes into what he does extremely well. Right, adds a little bit of lightheartedness to what we take as take very seriously, and it doesn't minimize the seriousness of the jobs we do. I put a little personality into my game. I think that just naturally flows out, and it makes me more comfortable on the field. So I think we have a bit of the same qualities. I don't know if I'm as good as the announcing as he is, but we don't have that opportunity yet, Mark. Maybe soon.
We'll see about that.
Okay.
Yeah, to Ted's point, like I'm Irish, and I even know who Wes McCauley is.
There you go.
Hey,
but that's more from his communication and dialogue, as opposed to me watching hockey games.
Just YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, right back to you, Drew. What's yours?
Look, man, Wes McCauley for sure. If we're going outside of soccer, you got that right. You gave all the exact right answers and the right reasons. I think we're totally on the same page. Within the game, look, there's so many really good referees, and it sounds like a huge cop out, but I'm not sure if there's one. I think that there's lots of referees in the world that have some really neat characteristics that make them good. You've got guys like Cüneyt Çakır from Turkey, who is not a big guy. He's a small guy, but on the field he's enormous, and he manages to project this crazy amount of personality onto the field, and is the guy right now that I think can really manage an entire game without a whistle, just with looks if he had to, right? And so that's probably my guy if I had to name one.
I think you bring up a really important point there, and the referees at the very top of their game in the men's game, the women's game, there's so little that separates each person. They're going to make the same decisions. They're going to say this is a penalty, this is yellow, this is red, this is a foul, this is not a foul. But how they manage those games is so different, and it comes down to really who do you enjoy watching, manage a particular match? Do you like somebody with a lot of personality and just a really enormous personality? You take Nestor Pitana from Argentina, the one who did the 2018 World Cup final. Just a gentle giant, a very big guy, physically a big guy, but just a big personality on the field as well. And you bring up Janae, and Janae is, like you said, a very small guy and a very quiet personality, just goes around the field doing his thing, you know. But I think the referees that you see in the Men's World Cup, the Women's World Cup, very little separating them. Katie, I mean, Kate, you worked with Kate in 2019 World Cup in France, and just a quality person, a quality referee, you know. And again, very little separates her and anyone else that was there in that pool of refereeing. But I think her personality really came through on the field as well, and it really made her a strong referee and was able to manage any game that was put in front of her.
Yeah, for sure. And that being her first World Cup too. I mean, I've never met anybody that knows more about individual players than her. And I think that the players could feel that, and how just much experience she had with players and how to communicate with them, that everybody was immediately comfortable with her, even on that big stage. So yeah, it really shone through, even though it was like her first World Cup. So.
What about assistant referees?
Sorry, should you say that again?
What about assistant referees? Who stands out to you? You two have both been to World Cups. Who stood out to you and your colleagues?
You can take this one, Corey, if you want.
Oh, are we back now?
Yeah, Corey.
You were gone. We've been here the whole time.
All right, Katie, I guess it's you then.
Well, definitely for me, I've always looked up to Sean from England. She's the first female assistant referee in the Premier League, and just since 2013, for her to be able to do what she's done on that level consistently, she's always, for me, been top assistant referee.
And just for me, just taking it in a slightly different direction in terms of outside pro, but not an active referee now. Going through Europe, like I know Killeen is always going to be the standout guy. As I was coming through as a younger referee, I thought Frisk was outstanding in terms of his ability to manage the game. He could referee the game with a smile, or he could referee the game with a real angry expression from time to time. But I thought his ability was really, really good. But even going through some of the World Cups, even Jorge Larionda from Uruguay, who I thought was really good, going back a number of years. Met him last year. I thought he's an excellent guy to just have a conversation with. And the guy you see on the field is very much the guy you see off the field. But there's been so many good referees over the course of, the last 15, 20 years. One thing I will say is that having been an international referee and then having stepped away from the international referee side of it, and then had the ability last year to go back to 2 tournaments, the difference in like the fitness stuff, the modern day FIFA referees are just real physical specimens. Compared to a couple of years ago, not that they weren't physical specimens or anything like that, but the expectation now, just from that side of it, is just exceptional. Yeah, both male and female. It's just a really, really different ball game now.
I think we have a question about the spray now.
Ted, have you been using your spray to enforce social distancing?
I carry 2 cans at all times.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, just in case. No. It's funny. Was it a couple seasons ago when JC did that for the very first time?
Yeah.
Say, you stay here and I'll go here.
I'll go talk to my AR while you stay away.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just saying, it's absolutely amazing how just putting down some shaving cream on the field can really stop somebody from stepping over that line, whether it's being used for the 10 yards, or as JC did, just to keep the players away from him so he can talk to the assistant referee without being crowded. It's just that mental block of seeing a line for people. It's absolutely amazing what that has done for this game.
Yeah, and you've referenced spray as shaving cream, and clearly you and I haven't used any of it since the lockout.
No.
So outside of, I mean, truly outside of spray, what have you done to kind of keep? Have you guys been out? Alan, have you gone out?
Like outside?
Yeah, like getting around the store.
Yeah,
and such.
yeah. Like like we're not in lockdown, but we're on a stay-at-home order, like most places. But like we're lucky, the neighborhood is quite large, quite expansive, so we can get out and about. But we tend not to go too far away. Like a couple of days ago, like even my 3-year-old had said, in her best English, can we go outside? Because I'm bored. But I think her meaning was, can we leave the house? Can we just go away from here? We took them in a car, just drove around a little bit and brought them back just to break the monotony of house, garden, neighborhood.
Sure.
Even when we go to the store, it's just one of us will go. That's it. Just if we don't need to go out, we don't go out. But look, you have to try and do as much as you can.
Yeah, fair. All right, this next question. Go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to hop to the next question there. The new law changes. What's benefit the game and helped you the most? You want to jump on this, Katie?
Oh, which ones are we talking about? I guess is a good question.
Pick one.
The ones that we haven't been able to put into practice yet.
Yeah, those good ones.
Yeah.
So what we should be playing with now. Yeah. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is the goal kick one. Just being able to play out of the back and nobody having to worry about that anymore has been wonderful for the game. Really sped it up. No questions about it, and players have accepted it widely. So I mean, for me, I think that's added great benefit to the game.
Sure.
I think the handball one has added like fantastic benefit to it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore now because Mark is the expert on that.
I think I've given my presentation about 600 times already.
There you go.
Now, I wish I was able to put into practice my favorite one, all right, because Colombia, England, with the wall situation and all the craziness that can happen in a wall, and now with the 3-man wall, all attackers need to be outside of it, but I love that one. I think it's going to clean up the game a lot, but unfortunately, I don't get to put it into practice myself.
In my law book, it says the Mark Geiger law. So
the Geiger law. Yeah.
I was going to say I've seen more of that clip in the last 12 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's the one clip that of all the ones that we've seen, that's the one that I'll always come back to.
That was my job in 2018, was to provide teaching material for FIFA for the next few years.
There you go.
So that you'd have something to teach after you retired.
Exactly. Yep.
Good planning. I think Alan's handball has the potential to be the one that does the most to help us, but it's the one that there's just always going to be so much gray area that I don't know if there's any changes that are going to get it to the point where it's clear all the time. So I think really I'm probably with Katie. I like the changes that should open up the game and should speed things up. I think there's been 3 or 4 in there. I'm sure there's a few people here that are thrilled that we can stop play when the ball hits the referee now, or if the referee interferes with play. I guess that's I was going to call you out, but I decided I'd let you do that yourself. Thank you, Ted.
That's fine. I could have done that, but thanks, Drew.
Coming back to handball, this gives me the opportunity to put in a little plug for Jeff Agus, because one thing he's always said is that if we call it a foul, call it a handball, every time the ball hits the player in the arm, cleans it up. No controversy. It hits the arm, call the foul, give the penalty, done, finished.
Yeah.
No talking points afterwards.
200 whistles a game should be tons of fun.
Yeah,
we won 60 minutes of active play, right?
I was going to say that I agree with Jeff a lot, but sorry, Jeff.
What about you, Corey?
No, I think Katie actually took mine, which is the goal kicks. I was surprised by, Mark, you have the exact details, but I was surprised how much more playing time we're getting because of that lob. Before it was a nice time, and it was a nice break for the ARs. We could take a casual walk up to the 18 while they're setting the ball for the goal kick. Now you got the ball in the stand right behind the goal, which is another change this year. They grab it right away. They put it on the 6 and ball's in play as I'm lowering the flag from my goal kick signal. There's no time to rest anymore on goal kicks. So I think it's benefited the game, but it's given me a lot less rest on the line.
Good thing you only have to run half the field. So
that's true. That's true.
All right, moving swiftly along. Yeah, like real quick from that. Right, at what point in your officiating career did you all decide you wanted to reach the top level? Drew, because you're asking the questions a lot, so we'll just show it to you.
That's a tough one to answer. I mean, I guess pretty early. Like I think everybody in our group probably decided they'd like to reach that level fairly early in their careers, and then it's just a matter of figuring out if you actually can find a way to do it. So yeah, I mean, I remember when I took my first sort of courses to become a referee, they were taught by some FIFA referees that we had at home who had made it to high levels, and they kind of gave the impression there that yeah, anybody in this room could make it. So I think there were lots of people who just sort of said, yeah, no, I'd like to do that. I hope I can manage to do it. And there's lots of luck that goes into that. But yeah, I think pretty early I decided I wanted to.
Ted?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like the start of my career per se was pretty casual. I think for the longest time, I wanted to stay local. It was a good hobby. And then like a drive, 2 hours away for 90 minutes of soccer just didn't make sense until it did. And then you're out there, and I think it's the adrenaline of, being part of the sport you love. And you're like, you know what, I want more of this. And you want to be part of that higher level. And then all of a sudden that appetite continues to grow. It was a bit organic. I mean, you guys know me. I come from a baseball playing background, so soccer never was from a playing sport sort of deal. It was never on the top of my mind. But man, like the adrenaline you get from being part of that, knowing that I can't kick a ball around, I think it grew over time. And I think when you start doing something, we're all as competitive as can be, that we want to reach the high level once we realize we want to be a part of something. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question, or to the question.
Yeah, and organic as well.
And organic as well. Yeah. Katie?
Yeah, my experience, it feels like it was more casual at the beginning, but I was a kid when I started refereeing. So, it was more for fun and just, a weekend job to start. And I think once I started, actually like leaving the state and doing maybe like a tournament, national tournament or something like that, when I started seeing higher level referees and what I could aspire to be, I think that's when I started getting more motivated. And, once you could see where you could go, that's when I wanted to definitely see if I could get there too.
I think from my point of view, kind of coming up in a system that's smaller in size than you guys, having seen what young officials do to go through the system here in the US, not so much in Canada, Drew. But for me, it was like I started refereeing in '94. While kind of coming back from injury, I refereed some kids games and kind of caught the bug when I went back playing. So I think in around '98, I've been refereeing a couple of years, and this is a plug for the Football Association of Ireland back home. But somebody had the foresight to introduce a school of excellence for young referees, where they felt that the national panel of officials was and the international panel was an aging panel, and they needed to recruit younger referees. And I think once we got into that program, I think at that point I saw that the potential that was there. I'm thinking, wow, there is potential here to referee in the League of Ireland, maybe quicker than some people have done before. So I think at that point, probably 4 or 5 years into refereeing, I'm thinking, yeah, there's an opportunity here. So that's where I think that's where it started for me.
Corey?
Yeah. And briefly, I spent this is my 31st year as a referee. And for the first 13, 14 years, I was doing second division centers and things like this. And it really wasn't until 2004 where I said, you know what, I have skills to be an average referee, but I think I have some skills that can make me a pretty top level assistant referee. And that's when I really decided to focus on the assistant referee track and just see how far I could go from there. And I think the decision worked out okay for me. But I still do centers for the record. But really my main focus is the flag now. And really I don't mind being the co-pilot to our boss in the center, whoever he or she might be.
Mark, I'm curious to your answer.
Yeah, we're all competitors, right? We come from athletic backgrounds, so we're always striving to get to that next level, just like players do, and even coaches. But for me, when MLS came about in '96, I think that was the first time I set a goal for myself, and it was a long range goal. It was to get the opportunity to do one game, so that was always in the back of my mind, and I think that's when I started pushing myself to move up the ladder, to get that state referee badge, get that national badge, and try going outside my comfort level in order to find those opportunities outside of New Jersey and get myself identified and seen and then start really focusing on this referee track instead of looking at it as Katie did, as a weekend job. I started right around the same point as you, Corey, about 31 years into this as well, and in the beginning it was casual, but then I think the start of the league is really what got me focused on doing this a little bit more seriously.
Awesome. That next question about how do you keep calm under extreme pressure from players and coaches? I wanted to hear from Corey and Katie first, because you guys regularly take AR1 spots in games, right? And so you're right in front of benches. There's more downtime when the ball's not around you. So, you hear supporter sections, you hear stuff from the field where Drew, Al, and I probably wouldn't, right, when we're running around, most of the time. But I want to hear from you guys first.
Yeah, Katie, you want to start?
Oh, thanks. One thing I always say about spectators is I really don't hear them as much as they think. So that's definitely a plus. But I don't know. For me, I always feel that I'm able to stay my calmest and perform my best when I'm prepared. And that also helps me then be able to deal with any situation that arises, including a coach being upset about something. So we're all going to handle a situation the best if we've prepared for it. And so then even if, we've made a decision, I can feel more confident in it that way. And then it's easier for me to explain myself to a coach that way. So I think that a lot of it for me is being prepared. And now that I've been in the league for many more years, my experience also kind of helps with staying calmer too, and knowing that these situations do arise and it's not such a surprise anymore. So it's just easier to handle them at this point.
Yeah, it is quite nice. It's a luxury for me and Katie now. But whenever we get an AR2 assignment, which is the assistant referee furthest away from the benches, all we have to do is worry about the play on the field. We're the furthest person away from the field from the benches, which is quite nice. But I think the confidence and experience is really what helps us all. When we have the confidence in our decisions, when we've prepared coming into the match, when we're mentally focused, we're physically ready. That's really, we don't feel that pressure as much. Every game is huge. It doesn't have to be a derby game. It doesn't have to be a championship. Every game is huge for us. Every game brings that pressure on our shoulders. It's just being ready for it and having confidence in our decisions and working well as a crew to help the whole crew stay calm.
And I think it's also a bit of we've had a slow climb. If you took somebody who'd never refereed a game before and dropped them into the middle of an MLS game, it would feel like just an incredible amount of pressure and screaming and whatever else coming from players and coaches. But it's important to remember that for all of us, we've got incrementally more as you come up through all these levels, right? Every level you step up, there's a little bit more pressure. There's a little higher stakes. There's whatever it is. And so you do kind of ease into it. And so it's sometimes when you watch games, when you watch even your own games back and you look at it and go, boy, that's not really how that felt on the field. This feels way different seeing it from outside. So I think some of it is you adapt, you kind of get used to the level that you're gonna come into.
I think part of it as well is you guys have all spoken about, the ability to remain calm and so on, which is paramount to what we do. But there's been plenty of situations where we haven't been calm, where we've reacted. A game is full of emotions, player reaction, that instantaneous emotion to object to a decision. But there's been times where we have, as officials, reacted in a manner that hasn't been calm. That's where the human side of us comes in as well, is that, hey, look, we're human, we make these decisions. Sometimes we react to situations, but look, from a teaching point of view, it's all about remaining calm, listening to what's being said, treating people right, answering a question properly. Mark, I'm doing a presentation later. I came across something from the World Cup where you approached the coach, Renard, and it's like, your communication is on the same level as he is. You don't approach him aggressively. It's very neutral and so on, which is a perfect teaching moment. But the reality is that sometimes it's a little bit different, where our emotions sometimes get the better of us. But I think it's important to point out that I think it's important that it's in the right situation, maybe with the right player type of thing, who can relate to what's being said. So, the teaching moment is don't react badly to what's been said to you.
And a lot of sorry, Ted, but a lot of what we're doing is we're outwardly calm, but you've got your mind going 1,000 miles a minute,
Sure.
and so everything that we do, it's a lot of what we do as referees and assistant referees is a show. And how we talk with players, or if we want to show one emotion, we may not be really feeling that emotion, but for game control and for player management, we have to show that emotion, or if we need to calm things down, we have a very intense situation, we can't be adding fuel to the fire. So while we may be hyped up and we may have a lot of those emotions going through us, it's really important for us to suppress all that and show a very calm demeanor on the field. So while we may look calm and composed under this pressure, I guarantee that the chest is pounding, the heart's beating, and the thoughts are all going through your head. Sorry, Ted.
Well, sure. No, fine. And you both make great points in that, like our training sessions, you see what our heart rate rises to, right? And we're putting in that same effort running on the field. So we're making big decisions under, with a high heart rate and high energy. You also, Alan, you alluded to the fact of respect and that mutual respect out there. We've built relationships over that time. We've been in the league. We use those to our advantage. But talking to somebody like a human being and getting that back gets you a long way. Having the laws as in your back pocket per se, and those considerations, and you talk intelligently and calmly. I think that's what helps me get through the 90 minutes.
So the question is it a pro directive that you should all have gray walls at home? Yes, it was. Obviously, Corey did not get the memo.
Yeah.
And he is in violation of the CBA right now. So I think we may be putting that fine structure into practice.
And my circle doesn't have the pie in it, but if I position myself, I can look kind of pious,
math joke.
Hey, if we do this again next week or sometime in the future, right, with the free time that we have, I guarantee you, some of you will got the paintbrush or the roller around. There'll be different colors on the walls.
We've turned a bedroom to an office here, so there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Howard.
Drew, what's the favorite game you've ever officiated?
So this is going to sound weird. We're going to have, I'm sure when the rest of you answer, we're going to have lots of, Mark's going to have a World Cup game or something, and Katie's going to have a World Cup game. Okay. Mine is my favorite for totally different reasons. My most memorable game by far was week 1 last year in Colorado in the snow.
Oh yes,
And
yes,
Brian Pichel nearly froze into an actual snowman.
yes.
And yeah, it was one of the most fun games I've had in years, because it felt like all of us, the officials, the players, were just trying to get through it and survive so we could all go home where it was warm. And so yeah, that's probably my favorite.
You're welcome for that game, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much. How about you, Katie?
Yeah, well, it obviously has to be my first ever World Cup game. The feeling that you get, to feel like you finally accomplished everything you've worked for. I mean, nothing ever beats that. And not only that, but the amount of preparation I felt. It was the calmest but most nervous I've ever felt at the same time. It was just like an extraordinary, unbelievable feeling. It's hard to describe, but that game was so much fun. Norway versus Nigeria, second day of games of the World Cup. I mean, they played hard. It was a competitive match, and even to just see women's soccer explode that much, and from the previous 4 years, it was just really cool to get to be a part of it. Even the second day of that World Cup too.
I'll tell you, we have. I got to do the Madrid derby last year. And I know we've done. It ends up being just a friendly, but those games are not friendly. It was the first time they played out of Spain. We're up at MetLife. It ends up being 10 goals, 2 penalties, 2 red cards, and one of the greatest stories from that game. CJ Morganti was on my line. We got to the stadium say a little bit later than we should have. And because of traffic and so on, he had brought 2 buddies along with him that have never been to a soccer game before. And they were sitting on the side of the field in pretty decent seats of 9 of the 10 goals, both penalties, and the mass confrontation red cards. So after the game, we go out to the parking lot, and these guys are beside themselves. They just witnessed the greatest thing they've ever seen in their entire life. They want to go to every soccer game that's ever scheduled thereafter. And had no idea, but special night to be part of. The energy, knowing how many eyes around the world were on that game, how many amazing players were on that field, and to be part of the talent that was out there and kind of orchestrate it and witness it was just awesome.
I think for me, I'm yes, I am going to say it, but the first World Cup match. As I said before, we're competitors, and we always try to make it to the top if we can. And that is the pinnacle of any soccer player or any referee's career. And I remember standing in the tunnel, and as soon as the anthem played and we started taking our first steps out onto the field with Colombia and Greece behind us, I laughed. I had this overwhelming sense of emotion and just, I don't even know what to call it, but my body reaction was to laugh. So for me, I think that was the most memorable match that I've ever done. And sticking to Colombia, and as difficult as Colombia-England was, in 2018 for me, I'm so thankful that I had that game. The most difficult game I had in my career, for sure, hands down. But and there are a lot of talking points that came out of it. But it's an experience that I'm very thankful that I had, in towards the end of my career, and it's one that I'm going to always look back on and be proud of and happy about.
Yeah. My favorite game that I refereed, I'll just say this year, was the last MLS game played, the LAFC versus Philadelphia Union. I mean, that's why I miss not being on the field so much. That was the last game. It was 3-3, amazing goals, sold out crowd, Chris Penzo in the center on national TV. And no one was talking about the referees after the game. It was just back and forth, and it felt like a playoff atmosphere. And that's really why I can't wait to get back, because to end on a game like that, and it's such a high, and to not be able to do that week after week, I think that's why all of us sitting here are really missing it a lot. But that was just such a memorable game, an instant classic, and that was definitely a memorable one from this year.
I don't necessarily have a favorite game. I've been privileged to referee lots of big games. I'll always remember my very first game. I had done the referee's beginner's course, And I was told I wouldn't have a game for maybe 3-4 weeks, get in the system and so on. I think we finished the course on a Wednesday evening. And on Friday night at 9 p.m., I got a phone call from what we call the fixture secretary back home, the kids league, and said, I need a referee for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And I completely shut down. The absolute panic and dread of having to go out and referee at short notice to do the first game. But the first game was Tremor Athletic versus Mayfield United, U13 boys. It was 7-6, 12 breakaways, a dodgy offside, loads of mistakes from my point of view. I've often said you can put me in the stadium with 60,000 people, and I wouldn't be as nervous as refereeing a game, right? With parents around the field, kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll always remember the first game, and as I said, there's been lots of games since. Then there's been lots of proud moments. One of the proudest moments is a game that I didn't even referee. It was to be a VAR on the U20 World Cup final last year, which felt a little bit weird, but there was that meant a lot for lots of different reasons. But yeah, to go with you guys, there's been some huge games that that we've been privileged to be a part of.
Yeah. Because the last question, we're a bit in stoppage time, as you would say here. What's this? What do we got? Yeah, put up the board. Yes. Yeah. About 5 minutes late. If you were all to work together as a crew to officiate in another sport, what would it be and why?
Can I start?
Yeah, sure, Alan, please.
Yeah, go for it, Al.
Professional wrestling.
Wow.
Is there that many judges there?
I don't know where to go with that, but
No.
Professional wrestling. That's
Can you give any more color to that, please?
You can say what you want, like that. That would just be great. Even to just look, if there's anybody from WWE tuning in, right, I'm available at any point.
Wow.
Just to do, one game. I'll take direction from whatever, and
Oh man!
Wow. Okay.
I've got nothing.
I'm not sure anybody's going to come up with that.
I think we may just end on that one.
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes.
I need to start thinking of my professional professional wrestling referee nickname before our next call.
You could be Corey the Rock Rockwell.
Corey the Rock.
Writes itself.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey,
can you imagine, Corey? Can you imagine walking in with 2 corner flags just like this, waving those things? That'd be perfect.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, listen, there's not a better answer than that. So maybe we wrap it up there.
Sounds good to me. Yep.
Awesome, guys.
All right. It's been fun.